You know, the thing about being the daughter of a rogue politician is that your life suddenly becomes a crash course in disaster management. One minute, you're trying to convince your 5-year-old that the bird he rescued is already dead, and the next, you're fielding calls from angry baby mamas, dodging court injunctions, and deciding whether or not to pull the plug on your father, who, by the way, just made the ICC's naughty list. And no, I'm not exaggerating. Let's talk about a story that blends political scandal, family dysfunction, and the smell of cremation smoke into a single unforgettable tale. Buckle up. This one is based on real events. The year is 2007, and Kenya is in flames, quite literally. The presidential elections just happened, and when Mwai Kibaki was declared winner, Raila Odinga and his supporters screamed fraud. What followed was tribal tension, street battles, and a political compromise where the two eventually formed a power-sharing government. Kibaki remained president. Odinga became prime minister, and the country tried to patch itself back together with a very thin band-aid. Now, the story we're looking at doesn't throw you straight into the streets with the rioters. No, it places you in the chaotic life of the daughter of one of those infamous politicians who allegedly fanned the flames of violence. And the International Criminal Court, the ICC, has just published a list of names. Guess whose dad made the cut? Yep, David Mavita. Cue the drama. David Mavita, once a man of immense influence, now lies in a hospital bed on life support after collapsing from the shock. A cocktail of hypertension, diabetes, and the ICC's hit list took him down. Found by his housemaid, abandoned by his friends, and utterly despised by his family, his fall from grace is nothing short of Shakespearean. And here's where it gets really juicy. His wife? She hates him. Says marrying him was the greatest mistake of her life. His sons? Disowned, disillusioned, and far removed. Jerry is in the US. Joni? Well, Joni became a homosexual prostitute in Nairobi and has completely renounced his father, which means that the only person left standing next to the ventilator, literally and metaphorically, is our narrator, his daughter. She's been left to pick up the pieces. And by pieces, I mean, well, decide whether to keep daddy on life support, deal with threatening calls and blackmail, handle a hospital under siege by 12 women, all claiming to have David's children, fend off a fake court injunction, and, yeah, make peace with her own grief. All this while keeping a curious 5-year-old entertained with a dying bird. I mean, that's just Tuesday for some people, right? Her attempts to rally help from the family go as well as you'd expect. She calls her mother, who says her piece and hangs up. An uncle refuses to assist, dragging up old grudges. The aunt does the same. Jerry? Too far away to help. Joni? Missing in action. With no one left, she heads to Nairobi's red light district to find Joni. There's something heartbreakingly honest about that moment. This daughter, desperate and exhausted, chasing down her brother who now sells his body to survive. When she finds him, Joni wants nothing to do with their father. He's been dead to me for years, he says. But surprisingly, Joni does follow her back to the hospital. And together, they stand by their father's bed, deliberating the final decision to pull the plug or not. A call from her husband, Tim, who's abroad, adds another voice in favor of letting him go. What's the point in keeping him alive, he asks, so the ICC can put him on trial? Fair point. And now we arrive at the climax of this dark, complicated comedy of errors. Enter the 12 women.
And also...
That's right. 12 different women show up at the hospital, all claiming to have had children with David. And not just that, they've come prepared. They present a court injunction, clearly forged, to stop the cremation of the body. They want a piece of the estate, and probably a slice of funeral cake while they're at it. But the daughter isn't some naive puppet. She's smart. She sees through the lies. She outwits them, outmaneuvers the hospital, and finally, she takes her father off life support. She watches him breathe his last. And in the final poetic act, she and Joni cremate his body. Then they take his ashes and, get this, they scatter them over Parliament, the very institution where their father had spent most of his political life. A full circle moment, ashes to ashes, back to the floor of corruption and power.
You what?
And then comes that line, that quote, when she looks at the tiny urn holding the remains of this once powerful man and asks, "Is that all?" The usher replies, "Yes, human beings are very small." That line, that one hits hard. The story is Set Me Free, published in the 2010 Caine Prize for African Writing anthology titled A Life in Full and Other Stories. And boy, does the title carry weight. Because this isn't just about setting a man free from a machine, it's about setting yourself free from legacy, from shame, from the burden of history. It's about releasing what no longer serves you, even if it's your own blood. Wow, this story really blew me away. Honestly, it's a masterclass in layered storytelling. On the surface, you see a woman's chaotic 48 hours as she tries to handle her dying father's estate. But underneath all that, it's actually a scathing indictment of the fleeting nature of power and the tragic collapse of a man who spent his whole life chasing status, only to end up with no one. No wife, no children, no friends. And it also brings to light the emotional toll of political violence, not on the politicians themselves, but on their families, their children, the ones who, have to live with the consequences. I love how the story humanizes a political event most people remember as just another election crisis. It takes that large national trauma and, compresses it into a hospital room, into the hands of a daughter who just wants to do the right thing, who just wants peace. And honestly, can we talk about that 5-year-old and his fallen bird? It's such a small thread in the story, but really an important one. The bird becomes a mirror of the father, wounded, dying, clung to by someone who doesn't want to let go. The son's desire to keep the bird alive is innocence. Her decision to let the father go is experience. Some of the strongest themes in Set Me Free include the corruption of power. David Mavita amassed wealth and influence, but in the end, none of it could buy him dignity or loyalty. Family estrangement and betrayal. Every major family member has turned their back on David, and his sins live on in the pain of his children. Gendered responsibility. The daughter, not the sons, ends up shouldering the practical and emotional work. She's the one holding everything together, deciding, cleaning up after the mess. Death and legacy. What are we really left with when we go? As the usher says, human beings are very small. In the end, even the mighty can fit into a palm-sized urn. Redemption and quiet strength. Joni's reappearance adds a layer of complexity and forgiveness, even if it's only partial. His return signals not forgiveness for their father, but solidarity with his sister. Set Me Free was written by Clifford Chianga Oluoch, a Kenyan writer and educator whose work captures the complexity of Kenyan society and politics with, sharp clarity. Through this story, Oluoch draws on the real-life trauma of the 2007 to 2008 post-election violence in Kenya, showing us not just the political consequences, but the deeply personal ones too. His ability to weave national chaos with intimate family turmoil gives the story its haunting power. So, next time you think political stories are all just headlines and press conferences, remember Set Me Free, remember the daughter, remember the urn, and remember that in the end, human beings are indeed very small. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Have you read Set Me Free? What did you think of it? Let's talk in the comments. Until next time, stay thoughtful and read African literature. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you're interested in diving deeper into this book, I've left some links down in the description. You can use it to grab yourself a copy and keep the adventure going. And if you're in the mood for more great reads, don't go just yet. Click on one of the videos popping up right now that I think you'll love. And don't forget to give this review a like, leave a comment, or even subscribe if you'd like to see more. Every bit of support helps us grow this little community of book lovers. See you in the next one.